Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. A talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Pastor Eduardo S. Advincula. And we're going to be discussing his amazing book, King Jesus Christ's Nursing Assistant, My Life Story as a Caregiver. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, man, it's a lot of other places. I'm telling you, type it into a search bar and sit back and be greeted with it all. And this is one you're not going to want to pass up. I want to quickly take this opportunity and point out the fact that Pastor Ed was brought to us by Citi of Books. So for my writers out there, if you've gone through your process and now you need some assistance moving that masterpiece, listen, head on over to cityofbooks.com and gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. And listen, this is a pleasure, man. It really is an honor to have Pastor Ed here on the line. His memoir, not only is it going to showcase resiliency and the strength of the human spirit, not only is it going to showcase the power of God, but it's also going to shine light on a healthcare system. Man, let's just call a spade a spade. It's going to showcase a healthcare system that is overwhelmed, that is understaffed, and needs a facelift. Man, listen, this isn't just a memoir. It's about how one CNA discovered grace in the grime, holding thermometers and trembling hands, while also showcasing his Filipino heritage and faith that all collided with that broken American healthcare system. And I emphasize that in my personal connection because, listen, you all heard me mention it a number of times in the past. I'm very fortunate to be married to a magnificent woman who works within that same healthcare system. My wife is a nurse practitioner, and she sees so many things head on. She recognizes and tells me stories constantly of how the healthcare system, in a lot of ways, does a disservice sometimes. And it absolutely doesn't shy away from the business side of things. Now, given her career, given her dedication, man, she is an optimist like myself, and she goes to work every single day and fights to make that system better. But there are pitfalls to it, and it is something that I'm looking forward to discussing here with Pastor Ed. And listen, I'm making it more one note. The book is very layered. It's nuanced, and there is a lot more to it. But that is definitely part of it. Sit back, strap in, and get ready, man, because this is going to be one that truly is going to help you look at things a little bit differently. All right, here we go. Pastor Ed, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being here with us. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah, Benji, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on your radio show and to be able to impart to our listeners all my personal encounters as a certified nursing assistant and in general about my book to be promoted as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Benji. And
listen, Pastor Ed.
Good afternoon.
Pastor Ed, I thank
Yes,
you, man. Listen, you had to write this amazing book in order for us to introduce you here on the network. So thank you for starting this magnificent journey, and thank you for entrusting us to help you along this part of it, because I know my listening audience is going to benefit tremendously. Let's start off. First and foremost, tell us more about yourself and your background.
Okay, my complete proper name is Eduardo S. Advincula, and I became a pastor on September 23rd, 2018. I was ordained here in San Jose, California. I was born and raised in the Philippines in that historic city called Cavite City, the former U.S. naval base named Sangley Point, which was also made as the military garrison of the Spanish Navy during Spain's colonization of the Philippines for almost 400 years, prior to the coming of the American forces. It also became the garrison of the Japanese Imperial Army during World War II. Everything about me is in my book. Let me give you a brief history of who I was back home. I was born on April 3rd, 1962. My late father was Benjamin Advincula, a former colonel in the Philippine Constabulary, a military branch of service organized by the American government during the United States occupation of the Philippines. It was later changed to the Philippine National Police in 1990. My dad died on January 17, 1997. He was also the best friend of one of our late presidents and Philippine Constabulary General Fidel V. Ramos. They worked hand in hand during their military careers. My mother was a former elementary music school teacher. She is alive still and is now at the Masonic Homes of California, a skilled nursing facility, and I visit her 5 times a week after my work as a hospital-certified nursing assistant and even on my off days. As far as my educational background is concerned, I graduated in the University of the Lyceum of the Philippines in Metro Manila, finishing 2 degrees. One, a Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service, major in diplomacy, and minor in political science from 1980 to 1984. This was my pre-law college course. The second is Bachelor of Laws, specializing in international law and criminal law from 1994 to 1998. And my third degree was in Bachelor's in Education from another school in Manila from 2000 to 2002. As far as my work background, I served in the Philippine Army Reservist Command as a captain and instructor of the Philippine Constitution to the Filipino Army soldiers, teaching them to observe the War Powers Act. And it was for them to respect human rights when assigned to fight in the battlefield. I also worked as a civilian special agent for the Philippine Military Joint Chiefs of Staff, where I was a government intelligence researcher and a military infiltrator infiltrating the communist movement and their armed elements called the New People's Army, or the NPA, which was then backed up by China and Russia at the time. I was a government infiltrator, also penetrating some Muslim terrorists who surrendered to the Philippine government under the late President Ferdinand E. Marcos. These Filipino Muslim surrenderers went to Saudi Arabia after being pardoned by President Marcos during the 1980s, allegedly, as they said it to the Philippine government, that they wanted to have a better life by working there in Saudi Arabia as Filipino contract workers. But only to find out that they were crossing the borders to Libya and Lebanon to undergo military training under the sponsorship of the late Libyan leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I was sent there to Jeddah and Taif, Saudi Arabia, with the sole purpose of verifying the truthfulness of that account. And this was under the secret activity by my dad and General Fidel Ramos for me to have been sent there. It was true, and when I came back home to the Philippines, I told my dad during that period, and he relayed the matter to General Fidel V. Ramos, who was not yet the Philippine president at the time. I told my dad that it was clear and true that some Filipino Muslim surrenderers went to Libya and had some military training under Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I also worked as a legislative staff of some Filipino politicians back home, as a special assistant as well of a Filipino ambassador to Germany, and we were focused on helping those OFW workers. OFW means overseas Filipino workers working in the Middle East and somewhere else around the world. After my law graduation in 1998, I worked in 1999 as the Philippine Coast Guard Intelligence Officer as an intelligence legal researcher, where I was assigned to draft the bill separating the Philippine Coast Guard from the Philippine Navy, and then collaborate the matter to the legal advisors and researchers of a former Filipino senator. Aside from this, as an intelligence and legal researcher, I was doing field work as a human intelligence, since during those times there were reports of a growing threat of terrorism in the country. That's it. Brother Benji?
Pastor Ed, listen, man, thank you very much for that. What a way to open a show. So we know about your background. Let's learn about this impressive book, King Jesus Christ's Nursing Assistant. Tell us more about it.
I wrote this book because it's all about my life story, Benji, and partly about my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
It's about my life story, and my life has many facets or phases, if I may put it that way. As you have heard me share with you what I was back home in the Philippines, being a certified nursing assistant and an ordained church pastor were never my goals, not part of my personal ambitions. In my book, I decided to include both my educational and my work achievements, not to flaunt or project myself as somebody, but to deliver a humble message to my readers and to those who are listening now on the radio, that no matter how set you are in life to pursue your goals, you will come to that point of realization that when you face hurdles after hurdles, battles after battles, you will have to give yourself some reflections and questions for that matter. Why something along the way, all of your objectives you wanted to accomplish turned out, and again I say turned out to be the complete opposite of your well-established plans. Writing this book was never easy for me because I immersed myself into all the realities that life has put me through. In addition to my own goals, that heavy moment of reflection solidly catapulted me and my thinking process and conviction to surrender all to that divine being who I have never seen yet, but I know nevertheless. He has made me feel his presence while I was in those struggles and lowest moments that I faced. And never will I ever, again I say never will I ever deny the fact that my King Jesus Christ has been watching me all these years and waiting for that right moment for me to tell him that I give up, Lord. I give up, Lord. And this time, be in control of my life. I have no more hidden agenda except to know you more and be of service in your divine vineyard, for others to know that you are real in my life and that you are the God Almighty who brought me through all these trials, mess, and testings. Being an intelligence officer, Benji, I was like walking on eggshells. I was in situations where I thought I would get busted, and I thought that would be the end of my physical existence. But I felt the presence of God still. Although at the time, I was still pursuing those goals of mine, not knowing that now I'm working as a certified nursing assistant for 21 years in the hospital at Kaiser, watching those people, my patients, dying, suffering from some small illnesses or terminal illnesses that gave me so many things to think about. I'm still here, especially during the COVID season when I went through a lot of exasperation, many of us. But I kept thinking about how God's presence in my life protected me all those years. When I was young back home in the Philippines, and now that I'm 63 years old, I'm still working as a certified nursing assistant. I still feel God's presence and divine healing upon me.
Pastor Ed, listen, man, that is a great place and something that I want to try to tackle next because, listen, this happens a lot And I think that it's something, I think it's something human, and I think it's something normal, right? When we're going through adversity, a common thing, man, especially for my believers out there, we look up and we may question God sometimes. And our faith could potentially waver. I think, as I mentioned, like I said, I think that's something that's human. I think that's normal. And that's what makes faith strong, right? Wavering from time to time, questioning certain things, that's normal. And then you work through it. You come back and it's strengthened even more. You talk about in your book the hardship that you experienced. And listen, the entire world experienced back in 2020, man. That was such a pivotal time for the world. COVID wreaked havoc, and it changed a lot. We looked at the world so differently, or I know I did. I know people around me felt that. We felt the weight, the gravity of the situation. You experienced it much more than others, being a first responder, being there on the front lines. You talk about your faith and listen, man, how you stayed strong through it all. I want to ask, how did your faith survive such weight?
Yeah, I came to know King Jesus Christ even when I was a kid. I accepted him as my Lord and personal Savior at the age of 10. We're back in the Philippines. We used to be in the Baptist faith. And the first American missionary was from Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. And he established the church in 1960, even before 2 years, even before I was born. So I grew up in the Baptist faith, and I've been going through Sunday schools. After Sunday schools, I've learned a lot from all those Bible characters, and my favorites are Samson, King David, King Joseph, Job, you name it, St. Paul. I learned a lot from them. But human being as I am, my Christian life became topsy-turvy, so to speak. There were times I was losing hope, I was losing faith, and at my young age, just like anybody else, we experienced to become so having the problem finding our own identity, in the sense that you want to accomplish more, but you can't. You're still young. Or you want to pursue so many goals and objectives, but you're limited in your resources, or you're limited in your capacities. You still have to undergo so much training. But little did I know, after I was trained by my dad in the military aspect, in the political aspect, in the diplomatic aspect, in the intelligence aspect, and my mom in the music aspect, I was, by God's grace, I was able to condense everything and came up with the conclusion still that I should now be giving everything back to the one who created us. Yes, you know what, Benji, my life was filled with ups and downs. And never, just like what I said, never did I ever envision to become a certified nursing assistant. But because of those high goals I've been setting for my life, God humbled me. It made me realize, Ed, everything on earth is temporary. After all these years, I've been, in my mind, the way I looked at it is talking to my conscience. And he would tell me that after all these years, I've been allowing you to exist. And on a daily basis, I make you wake up. I want you to wake up to the reality also that I'm here, that I want you to serve me. But I had my goals at the time. I was so ambitious. As a matter of fact, Benji, when I graduated from law, I didn't pass the bar exam, and I was so hurtful emotionally. And I questioned God. I said, why did you allow me to fail when you know my ambition is for you? I had made my peace with God. I told him a lot of stuff. Lord, I wanted to clean the society in the Philippines with criminals. I want them not hurting other poor people. My conscience is telling me to defend the poor and the defenseless. For some reason, you never allowed me to pass the bar exam. I found out somehow God was showing me sequences and details in life why for some reason he just allowed me to become a law graduate with a law degree but not with a license. I found out that some of the people that I know who passed the bar exam and were licensed are no longer around. They're dead. They had the same ambition like I did, but for some reason as well, they were liquidated. And that gave me a wake-up call as well. That opened up my mind. Because if I was with them, I would have been 6 feet below the ground as well, not reaching this age of 63, not becoming a certified nursing assistant anymore. So even though I didn't pass my exam, I still continued working as a legal researcher under the auspices of my licensed lawyer uncle at the time. And after that, I was doing a lot of other work in the military as an intelligence officer, and then doing all those human intelligence work. After that, every time I would go home, there's this conviction in my heart. Because one time, it's also part of in my book, where there was one time I was doing some field work in the outskirts of Metro Manila, and I was driving, and there was a heavy traffic. And across the street, there was this big hospital called the Philippine General Hospital. And so we stopped. It's still red light. I looked to my side where the hospital was located at. And I saw ambulances after ambulances unloading sick people from the gurney, but bringing them back inside the hospital. That particular moment, Benji, when I went home after my field work, it registered something in me that at first I've been trying to ignore. So I went on pursuing my goals, my missions and everything, but it never stopped. Even when I was doing my infiltration work against the Communist New People's Army, those elements of the communist movement back home, I saw them at the time not only as a target for the government to liquidate, but at the same time came to my mind, these people also have souls. These people have been led astray by a negative, demonic ideology. I think these people need to get saved. Somehow, as I was trying to infiltrate them, I was also conversing with them. And I was trying to introduce the Holy Bible. But a number of them told me, we don't believe in the Bible. If you keep on saying that to us, chances are, you know what's going to happen. So as I was infiltrating them, because as an infiltrator, I projected myself as a college student, selling this balut back home, this rotten egg, they stuck with rotten eggs. And so I stopped. And from then on, I reported that matter to the headquarters. I told them where they are, where they were, and they did the operatives. They contacted the operatives, and they did what they're supposed to be doing. But still, at the back of my mind, there's already this struggle going on between spirituality, doing the work for God, and at the same time doing my work for me, for my government. So I still went on. Now when I came back to the United States, I became a certified nursing assistant, and God made it clear to me once and for all, especially during the COVID season. You should see me how I was working 16 hours a day during 2020. Many of my colleagues and coworkers were giving up. And in those moments, I was able to establish relationships and friendships with my patients who contracted COVID. And after a month, they were dying left and right. And part of my job as a certified nursing assistant was to bring the dead bodies to the morgue in the hospital. So one time I went there with my other coworker, and there was no more space for the dead bodies in the body bag. And so I had to call the supervisor and let him know it's full. It's like a storage of sacks of rice with no more space for another sack to put into, until our hospital Kaiser had to rent a big freezer for more dead bodies to be brought down from the hospital. And as I was doing my work, we're the only ones waking up in the morning, still driving back to the hospital. We couldn't do work from home. Only those doing the hospital, only those doing the office work on the computer. But for us, as healthcare workers, doing human touch to the patients, doing treatment and caring and caregiving, we have to be in person. And so I was doing it for the whole 2020 during the COVID season until it went away. And we had to do a lot of vaccinations. I got 7 boosters for my body just to protect myself. 7 boosters, 7 vaccinations for COVID. My other coworkers only decided to have 2, but I chose to have 7 just to make sure I would still move on. But you know what? As I was watching my patients, I would hear them saying, I want to go now. Call the doctor. I can't take it anymore. And there were other patients in other rooms that I would be hearing yelling and calling their family members and saying those words, I want to die now. I just couldn't breathe anymore and I can't take it anymore.
Wow.
After all those things that happened during those times, Benji, that deepened my desire to get closer to God. And so back, even before the COVID-19, in 2018, I was already experiencing so much heaviness in my heart because prior to 2020, my dad died of cancer in 1997, and his doctor told us that it's now in the family. It's in the DNA of the family. It can happen to any one of you. Lo and behold, by God's grace, it skipped my siblings and myself. It went to one of my nephews, and he survived it. That alone gave me a lot of things to think about as well. And now when I got to be ordained as a pastor in our church, it closed down during the COVID season, but in our church, I saw elderly. I was witnessing to people that are homeless. I would talk to kids that are at a loss, would counsel them. All this stuff put a heavy toll on me to the point that I said to my boy, give me more strength, God, give me more strength. Because the following day, it wasn't a Sunday as I was telling this to you, but on the following day, Monday, all the way to Friday sometimes, I would go back to work and still would see the same patients contracted with COVID, dying of COVID. And every time I would park my car going off to the hospital side, I lost count as to how many people were being picked up by the ambulance in body bags on the gurney, being brought down to be burned, to be cremated, or to be brought to the morgue. Those situations, Benji, never stopped lingering in my mind and in my heart. As a matter of fact, in all honesty, I would go home with tears rolling on my face because I figured I could be one of them. One of them could be one of my family members. So I carried all the heavy moments in my heart until I said, Lord, I give up. Help me. I'm yours now. I can't do anything more. You allowed this COVID to happen for a reason. And perhaps, I said, you wanted me to also realize the fact that you're still in control. And I know you're in control. But you being in control, I want you also to be in control of my life now. And from then on, that's the reason why I was able to write this book. But it took me some time, actually. It wasn't easy for me to write this book because there was a flashback of all those sad memories about my patients that became close to my heart. And after a few weeks, after a few months, I would find out they were dying one by one. And then I saw some of my coworkers as well being patients. And to my surprise, I would be in one of the rooms and I would see some of my coworkers as well. Oh my goodness, he had this. I said to myself, she has this. He has this. And I just have to be firm. And I wasn't showing it to others. I wasn't making anybody hear me, but I was verbalizing quietly. And I kept saying those words, my King Jesus Christ, take care of me as I take care of these people. Take care of us as we take care of all these helpless individuals. And that keeps on going. Now that we don't have any more COVID, it was transitioned to only becoming a flu, but somehow we still have some COVID patients. The last one that I had was a few weeks back, and I saw my patients still helpless. And when I got home, still my eyes became teary because at the back of my mind, I was entered a question. Will she be able to make it? Or will she be able to make it or not? And so I had to grab my Bible, have my personal devotion, and pray for that person. Basically, Benji, this is what I've been doing now. I was asked if I like my job so much by my patients, and I would always answer them with a smiling face. And I would tell them, it's not only a job for me, it's a ministry. And then some of them would ask, you sound like a pastor. And I would tell them, I am. And right at the very moment, they'll be asking for prayers, and we'll pray together. So I finally realized, after all my frustrations back home, not becoming a licensed lawyer, God also made me realize from the way I try to understand God's plan, why He never allowed me to pass bar exam, it's because as a lawyer, you have to be siding with one party, and you have to oppose the other party. My thing is, as a caregiver, I don't have to put myself in any side. I have to take care of both of them. I've been telling this to my congregation. I lost count as to how many people I took care of from all walks of life. I took care of politicians, policemen, teachers, engineers, pastors, homeless, individuals, children, people who were shot because they're part of the gang, elderly, from all nationalities, Mongolians, Tibetans, white Americans, black Americans, Hispanics, Filipinos, other Asian ethnic groups. And that made me finally realize when I made my peace with God and I said, Lord, thank you for making me a nursing assistant. Now my mind is so open to the reality that I should be preaching you more than what I should be doing for myself. And that's the reason why I had to include my educational and work achievements, not because to project myself as somebody, but to let everybody know, and to my readers most especially, and to those listening on this radio station of yours, that without King Jesus Christ, we are nothing. If we don't make King Jesus Christ as the center of our existence, whatever we accomplish would mean nothing. And as everybody to know, I'm a fan of Steve Jobs. I like his intelligence, his genius, but one thing that really struck me so much, that all the more made my trust in God, my faith in God so tenacious, so firm, is when Steve Jobs said this words, and I paraphrase it. He said, I can buy this whole hospital. I can buy this whole hospital. I can buy the latest equipment, but I can never buy somebody to take over my place. He had cancer, as everybody knows it. And now he's been there for a time. Not one single penny was he able to bring with him in another world. Every time I think of his situation, all the billions he left on earth, and I was comparing myself, I said, Lord, thank you for still making me live. Because I may not have been born a millionaire or a billionaire. I may not have millions of dollars in my pocket, but I have you. I have you to pull on to the world, to proclaim to the world that my King Jesus Christ lives in me, and that you're still blessing me in small ways and big ways. Right. And may this book, Lord, be a big blessing to everyone.
People, listen,
thank you, Benji.
Pastor Ed, thank you, man. There is so much to unpack here. I promise you we've barely scratched the surface. The onus is on you now, man. It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble. The book is entitled King Jesus Christ's Nursing Assistant, My Life Story as a Caregiver. Head on over there, grab the book, honor a caregiver in your life, and remember, even in life's hardest times, hope is still on duty, man. There is still, as long as you have faith with Jesus by your side, man, you're going to be able to overcome it. This book is going to showcase that to you and so much more. Head on over there, pick up your copies today. Pastor Ed, this has been an absolute, such an honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you to Benji, and thank you to all the listeners.